Hello, Packer fans, wherever you may be. It's time for today's edition of the Pack Attack Cast. Today we're going to discuss news and notes from the second padded practice on Tuesday the 29th. The Packers will be off on Wednesday from practice before 3 days of practice, including family night. So look for mainly news tomorrow along the lines of injury updates, if we have any from press conferences. But the Packers will be taking a well-deserved day off. They've been working very hard. This is the sixth day of practice. And I can speak from experience. It is very hot and humid out there. So they certainly deserve a day off. So let's go through the news and notes that we have from today. Today we got a lot of news from both Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst that were making comments before practice today. Most importantly, we got an injury update on Marshawn Lloyd. He had a groin strain, which likely took place before contact with Hobbs on Monday. Look for him to be brought back slowly in the rehab process. That's just my assumption. And I would guess that they try to work him in no later than after the first preseason game, which will be around August 12th. That's just my prediction. With a groin strain, as most of us know, and we saw with Jordan Love last year, rushing a player back can have very serious repercussions, and you can end up with a tear. So I would expect Lloyd to be with the rehab group until after the first preseason game. While that's a setback for Marshawn Lloyd, it shouldn't be a significant one if they treat the injury correctly and bring him back very slowly, which is why I think they'll give him a week and a half off before he has any team action. You might see him on the sideline getting some mental reps, but I don't expect him to be taking either any individual or team drills probably for at least a week at a minimum. If you want to look at the bright side of this injury, the Packers already know that Marshawn Lloyd is going to be on the active roster. So this will give the Packers time to sort through the rest of the training, the running back room for the next week or so as they try to figure out who the third and possibly fourth running back are going to be on the active roster, assuming that they have 4 running backs on the roster. Purely conjecture here, but this might have an impact on how many running backs the Packers take on their active roster. This might encourage them to increase the chances that they have 4 active running backs on the active roster, because Marshawn Lloyd, at this point, and no fault of his own, I want to be clear, does have a clear track record of being stung by the injury bug. So it's not his fault. It's nothing the Packers are doing. But the Packers might be more likely to carry a 4th running back into the regular season with this injury. We'll have to watch that very closely. And that might not be a bad thing, because the Packers have amazing depth at the running back position. If they can find a 4th running back that can also participate on special teams, then I think that's certainly possible. I think this is very interesting, because when Lloyd went down yesterday, there was a lot of outcry on social media and on YouTube that Hobbs was a dirty player because apparently he hurt his teammate. Now we find out that Lloyd was actually hurt before that contact took place. So both Gutekunst and LaFleur actually praised Hobbs' mentality in the press conferences as being aggressive and physical. And I think this might have been sort of a my bad situation, certainly for LaFleur, because after that sequence, Hobbs was benched for part of training camp on Monday, and that might have just been the perception that he had hurt his teammate, but now it looks like that was not the case. So all you people that were going after Hobbs in social media, I know who you are because I saw some of the posts. Maybe you should take that back because it doesn't look like Hobbs did anything to hurt his teammate. So I think that's very good that both Goody and LaFleur praised Hobbs and basically cleared his name and said the injury had nothing to do with the contact with Hobbs. We do have an injury update. Donatavian Wicks suffered a minor calf issue on Monday and would not participate in practice on Tuesday. Look for him to be probably back Thursday. I did look at some of the tape from training camp on Monday, and it did look like Wicks was limping around a little bit, but I think he'll be back in practice on Thursday because they will want to keep him in the mix in the wide receiver room. Also, in the press conference, when asked about cornerbacks, General Manager Gutekunst went out of his way to talk about Bo Melton specifically as someone who's been impressive in training camp practices. As we know, Bo Melton moved from wide receiver to DB at the start of training camp while he experimented with this in minicamp and OTAs. Apparently, this is something that has been long discussed within the Green Bay Packers organization, and this gives Bo Melton the best opportunity to help the team. Gutekunst talked about how Bo Melton is already a great special teams player, which is very important. They already know how good he is as a receiver, and the fact that he's now a very effective cornerback makes Bo Melton a very valuable player as they try to figure out the final roster. So I'm very excited about Bo Melton. I think it's pretty much a lock that he's going to make the active roster, barring an injury right now. Let's talk about practice notes. The Packers have made winning the turnover battle a point of emphasis for the defense and offense in training camp. Defense has been working hard on punching the ball out, and the offense started the day with some drills on ball security. I think this is very interesting and important to note. The Packers were third in turnover differential in 2024. A lot of those turnovers, at least early in the season, came from interceptions. So if the Packers can move from third in 2024 to maybe first or second in turnover differential, this could significantly impact their wins and losses this year, and it's very likely they could get an extra win or two in 2025, hopefully against the division rival, hint, hint, Lions, that might win the division for them. So I think this is great to see, and another way that the Packers are upping their game on defense. They already have a good scheme where they disguise their pass rush. Now they're saying, let's up our game and let's focus on turnover differential in 2025, which we were already really good at. So I see this defense continuing to make moves and do things in training camp that will get them from 8th in defense to what I believe is 5th in defense in 2025. And if they can get to 5th in defense, I think there's a very good chance that they can make a very deep playoff run in 2025. Very exciting to see Elton Jenkins is ahead of schedule, and he participated in both individual and team reps in practice. If you watched our video yesterday, I thought he might get into team reps next week, but he is already in team reps, which is a great sign because it allows them to start building the best 5 starters around the offensive line. With him locked in as center, they have the two tackles pretty much settled with Walker and Zach Tom right now, because I don't see Walker getting a lot of competition at left tackle. We know Zach Tom is set at right tackle. We know that Banks is going to be the left guard as long as he is healthy. That means they really only have one position on the starting offensive line to figure out, and that is right guard, which is going to be between Jordan Morgan and Sean Ryan, both of which are playing really well in training camp. So I think I'm very excited, because if they can get this offensive line really locked in early in camp, and the rest of the camp battles are for second and third string for offensive line, this tells me that the depth in the offensive line should be the envy of the most of the league. We have players that are going to be second string that many teams would love to have as starters. And that's really going to play dividends throughout the course of the season. One important note about the offensive line, apparently Walker got chippy with Inabare, which led to the entire offense running a lap around the field. Apparently, Walker and Kinsley Inabare were jawing at each other, perhaps pushing each other around. I haven't seen film of this yet, but I'm making the assumption. Apparently, Matt LaFleur laid into Walker, told him to cool down because he didn't want to see this sort of inter-team rivalry start to develop. And he had a chat with the entire team after practice, reminding them that they are teammates and that we do not want to see practice getting out of hand. I've seen Matt LaFleur be very aggressive at nipping issues in the bud in training camp. I saw it myself when I was there for several practices last week, and I've seen many accounts of how Matt LaFleur is jumping in, nipping things in the bud if he's seeing things he doesn't want to see in practice. He's very vocal, he's outspoken, and he's very public about correcting his team. And I think that's very important, and that shows a strong leadership from the coaching staff. Another injury note we want to watch right now, Savion Williams dropped out of practice while shaking his head, which was likely the result of his prior concussion. So maybe Savion Williams rushed himself into practice too early, and now the training staff is going to have to see what they have to do about dealing with his possible post-concussion effects. So I would expect Savion Williams will be given the rest of the week off and will not participate, including on family night on Friday. Look for him to be 100% next week as they take the time that they have to work Savion Williams out of this concussion issue, because clearly it is still something that is lingering, and they have to be very careful about that. One thing that the Green Bay Packers do have on their training staff is a lot of experience with concussions, because they dealt with Dobbs last year having significant concussion issues. So look for that to be a benefit, and for them to be very careful with Savion Williams. He's not expected to be an immediate starter, so there's no reason for them to rush him back onto the field. Good news for the offense is Matthew Golden continues to impress on the field. He made the play of the day, which is a 70-yard bomb from Jordan Love to Golden in practice. Golden continues to make the case that he's too good to be on the sideline, and look for him to play a major part of the offense as early as week 1. Green Bay Packers have historically eased their wide receivers into the mix, but I think Matthew Golden is showing that he needs to be at least part of a regular rotation for snaps as early as week 1. Let's take a look at the defense right now. Some quick notes there. According to ESPN's Rob Demovsky, first round pick Lucas Van Ness was 3-0 in one-on-one pass rushing. He beat Morgan twice in particular. So a former first round pick, Jordan Morgan, was beat twice by Lucas Van Ness in practice, and he had another one-on-one rep where he won as well. So he was 3-0 in one-on-one pass rushing drills. This is significant because we need Lucas Van Ness to take that starting job and be a consistent source of pressure against the opponents. I have already predicted that he's going to make a huge leap this year. Everything I saw in training camp while I was there and in the news and notes that I've seen with pads on shows that Lucas Van Ness is making a significant jump this year. So look at that. And Lucas Van Ness has not started a football game since high school. Look for him to get his first start week 1 against the Detroit Lions, and I do expect him to be impactful in that game. Another news and notes that we're seeing from the nose tackle position is Nazir Stackhouse. He has been generating pressure in team drills and even came away with a sack at the nose tackle position today. The Packers don't have a lot of depth at nose tackle, so look at Stackhouse as an undrafted free agent to make this roster and to be part of the rotation at defensive tackle. There's a lot of good signs from Nazir Stackhouse. I didn't know if he was going to make the final roster, but it's looking more and more likely that he's a big body that can put pressure on the quarterback, which is very rare to find, and he might be a diamond in the rough as an undrafted free agent this year. So that's it for news and notes on offensive defense for today. Thank you for stopping by. Please give us a like and subscribe. We're making great progress for our subscribers. We're trying to get to 5,000 before the start of the season. We're already at 3,700 and growing. So if you guys haven't already subscribed, give me a subscription. It only takes a minute, and we'll get to that 5,000 goal before the start of the season. I'm very excited about going to week 1, Lions against Green Bay. I will be there in person in the stands reporting for you, and please give us a like and subscribe so you can get that information right after week 1. We'll be back with some news and notes probably after Thursday's practice. Tomorrow, I'm going to actually take some time to look at an updated roster projection based on what we've seen in the first week and a half of practice. So as always, go Pack Go, and we'll see you tomorrow with an update on what I think we're going to see from the roster of the Green Bay Packers after a week and a half of practice. Talk to you then.